What's going on, everybody? Welcome back. Hawk Talk on Melrose, delayed instant reaction podcast following Iowa's ugly 7-3 win yesterday in Kinnick Stadium. Tyler and I were there. Colby was watching it down in Nashville. Just a pathetic performance by the offense. Defense and special teams came out kind of what we thought they were going to do, but you look further into the schedule and it's like we're not gonna win games when we just have to rely on the special teams defense. I know we did that last year, but the schedule was very favorable compared to this year. But excited to have both of you guys back on. We're gonna talk. We're gonna kind of hash this last game out and see if we can improve any way on the offense. So I guess the floor is open for you guys. You guys can kind of give your initial thoughts to me or to the episode.
Yeah, you go first, Colby.
Well, first, I feel like this instant reaction pod might be more like a therapy session for me to vent out all my frustrations on what we just watched yesterday, coming from an offensive standpoint. I don't recall having in my 20 years of being a Hawkeye fan, I think I started watching Hawkeye football in 2001, 21 years. I think that was the least enjoyable opening game I've experienced as a Hawkeye fan. And I just didn't have fun. Yes, the defense, special teams were balling, but that's things we knew coming in. We knew that that was the strong point of our team, and we were just hoping, and things we were told that, like, hey, the offense, they're not going to be great, but there's going to be things that we're going to see. We're going to see noticeable improvement. And yesterday was about the worst you could ever do as an offensive team against an FCS opponent. And I don't want to take anything away against South Dakota State. They are a high-class FCS team, but at the end of the day, they're still an FCS team that an FBS Power 5 conference should take care of and be able to score at least a touchdown against.
Yeah.
And for us to score 3 points as an offensive unit it's embarrassing. It really is. I don't know what the coaching staff's doing. I don't know how they can even watch film and be okay with what they're in. I know it's coach speak, but Ferentz even yesterday feeling good about Spencer being out there. It's just like
annoying.
All the little things were terrible yesterday, and it doesn't even allow for you to do anything big. And it's like, it's just like dead on arrival. There is no creativity. The offensive line looked terrible. Petrus, we now know, we know what we had with him, but we were wondering, hey, can he take a little bit of a jump? Can he command the pocket? Can he move around a little bit more? Does he have awareness? And yesterday might have been his worst game as an Iowa Hawkeye player, and that is hard to say. And I'd hate that I have to criticize him because he's a good kid. He's a college kid, but man, it's like, it's almost a disservice at this point putting him out there. And I don't know the dynamic inside the locker room, and I know they probably love him and I know they believe in him, but like, for Alex Padilla not to transfer last year to give a fair shot to play and then watch that and not be able to even get a snap to come in and improve what he can do on the field is just embarrassing. It was a disservice putting Petrus back out there, and I was just dumbfounded every time we got out there. The offensive line was pushed back. They were playing 8 to 10 in the box, not even caring. They didn't even care that we would even try. They looked at our offense and basically just laughed yesterday. And it is now a laughing stock. It's been a laughing stock among the college football world the past 2 seasons. But good Lord, it's just like, I'm sounding angry. I'm not angry. I'm just like frustrated that as fans, like, have now come to just expect this is what it is. And we can't even depend on the coaching staff to say, hey, we're going to change it. We're going to switch things up. It was god awful yesterday.
Well, they do in the offseason. That's what I was telling Austin yesterday. I was saying inside Kinnick, we look like fools because every year we go into the season optimistic because we do hear those things like, oh, we're changing, we're simplifying the offense, we're doing this, we're doing that. Petrus is looking good in practice, and then we start the season, we start optimistic, and then we literally look like fools because this last month, Tyler and I, you were on the show, we were very optimistic. Like, we were hoping that the offense would find ways to get better and back at square one.
Listen,
if anything, worse than
I get
average.
I get it. I get that we're hurt at wide receiver right now, and that doesn't help. I get that we're young on the offensive line, but everything we were told coming into the year was, hey, this offensive line, and And one, like all those players across the board on the offensive line were pretty highly recruited players, high 3-star, 4-star players. And it's just like, where is the development? That's what Kirk Ferentz is known for. And yesterday, it just looked, it looked terrible. Every time we ran the ball, there was already like 6 guys in the box just blowing off our guys. And then like the quarterback development, I just don't understand, as a Big Ten team that somehow made it to the conference championship last year. Like, how are we continuing to just lack development among QBs, or not even having someone back there that they trust to like say, hey, you know what? If Spencer can't do this, we know this guy's doesn't have game experience, but hey, he's talented. Let's just throw him into the fire.
And just
Because
see
I
what
can
happens.
guarantee you it might be better. It can't get worse than what we saw
Right.
yesterday. Colin, you sent through a snap, and Tyler, I'll let you get to your thoughts here. But like, you sent through a stat yesterday, QBR. Like,
Yeah.
it's not even close. Spencer's QBR yesterday was 1.1. That is
Yep.
that
The
that
next
arguably
highest
might be,
was 50 in the Big Ten.
yeah, and that might arguably be the worst
Right
QBR
here.
I've ever seen. And
Yeah.
so, I mean,
I've
look
never
at
seen
that.
I've never seen a QBR that low.
all
Yep,
all
one-
negative stats. And Colin, what's that far right thing? Yeah, I mean, it's just like, whew, it's something that I'm really nervous for the rest of the
1.1.
year. I know our defense is like, watching them is fun, and watching Torrey Taylor punt it
Yeah.
for the 2-yard line every time is fun, but not having a
No.
pulse on offense is not fun, and it's not doing anything. And it's like, I had tweeted today back at Hawkeye Game Film, which I don't know if y'all follow, but if you don't, it's a must follow. He's really good
I
at
follow him.
dissecting things. And it's just like, I think Ferentz believes in so much of what he does that he's not willing to change.
Yeah.
And at some point, it's just like
Very stubborn.
nailing a nail into like steel with just like a rubber hammer. It's
Yep.
not going to work.
Right.
And it's like, I don't know. I don't know how we can change it. I haven't been this concerned going into the year probably since 2012. And
We finished 4
I don't know.
Well,
yeah, it's
yeah.
like,
And I was
Yeah,
going to
Tyler,
say,
go
like,
ahead.
so, well, Colin made up a good point. He's like, we're kind of dumb as fans to like now to, believe what we heard in the offseason was going to be different and change. And I think that's why you heard the boos yesterday. Yeah, it was because Spencer played really bad and because we punted from our own 37-yard line to pin them at their 2 or whatever it was. We booed on that, but we booed because it was a culmination of 8 months of the offseason hearing, exactly what we wanted to hear. And we put together a performance like this that was worse than last year. And like you said, maybe that has a lot to do with some players injured, but that doesn't all have to do with that. And
and players being injured too, it's like that also goes back to development. How are we only having 2 scholarship wide receivers available? I mean, it's like,
no, I agree.
we don't
Yeah,
prioritize things that we need to be prioritizing, especially the last 3 years that we've seen. It's like, we have to change. And I've given props to Kelton Copeland before.
Yeah.
Because I thought he's done a great job with what he's been given the last 4 years. But it's like, all right, now at this point, and I'm sure we'll talk about it, watching Charlie Jones do what he did at Purdue a couple nights ago, I mean, it's just like, how can you, us as fans can be mad that he left, but it's like, can you really be mad that he left something that was that bad? No. I mean, all of us would. If in our jobs it was that bad, we would leave. And so, yeah,
100%. And you're right. I mean, it was being there. So me and a buddy, your guys' cousin Cody, we sat on the other side at the beginning of the game, and a bunch of, former season ticket holders that are next to you guys, they left around like halftime. And so me and Cody joined Colin and the rest of his family and your guys' normal seats. And it just, I don't know. It felt like a really long game. It was brutal. It was probably the most boring game I've ever watched from Iowa football. And I can't imagine watching it on TV because being there, it was bad. And, Colin literally during the middle of the game in the second half he looks over and he's just like, God, do we legitimately have the worst Division I quarterback in college football? And I'm like, you can make an argument. The stats would probably back you up and say that he's probably one of the worst QBs out there. And I've given way too many excuses as to why you out there, experienced, good leader, good guy. But at the end of the day, it's about, obviously it's about wins, but it's also about how you help your football team, not hurt your football team. And I thought a stat that Colin or you, Colby, I can't remember who found it, but in the last 8 games, he's had 1 touchdown and 8 interceptions. That's not even being a game manager. That's literally hurting your football team. That's worse than a game manager. And at what point do we say to ourselves, like, okay, Alex Padilla is not worse than that, worse than a 1.1 QBR, worse than a 4.4 yards per attempt yesterday. It's not. He's not worse than that.
Well, and that's the thing. Like what Farron says, like Petras is good in practice. It's like, I don't care about practice. You're not getting hit during practice.
You're not.
Okay. Or I don't care how good you look at the Manning camp. You don't have pads and a helmet on. Like, it's like things like that just annoy me, because then you actually see like the game results and the data is there. I mean, look at like people that are watching this on YouTube. Like, I have this screen up. Like, look at that 1.1. Like, that is so pathetic. CJ Stroud, number 1, and he went up against a Notre Dame defense. I mean, that's incredible. I'm gonna go over the stats here. Like, like we played an FCS. This is against an FCS school. 10 first downs, 4 for 17 on third down, total yards 166. I mean, I don't know. I mean, time of possession, we were right up there with them. I mean, Iowa, I mean, that's our identity, right? Run the football, win the time of possession. Well, rushing yards, we had 57, and time of possession, we had 30 seconds more than them. The only strength is if you look to the left. I mean, LaShawn Williams having 72 yards for literally getting every single play he was getting like blown up. To be able to get 72 yards is pretty phenomenal. And then obviously Arlen Bruce, those are like the 2 positives of the offense. I mean, Arlen Bruce at 68 yards, but oh my God, it's just incredible. And then I want to share this too up here, if I can get to it. Of course, this thing is like in the way. Okay, really? Oh, there we go. John Miller right here. So Iowa had a total of 16 drives yesterday, but 2 of those were kneel downs at the end of the half. So 14 real drives. Iowa failed to gain more than 10 yards on 9 of those drives. That stat, more than any other you could pick from, speaks to deep concerns with this offense. Petras is not the answer, but I'm not irritated with him because the coaches put him out there. Exactly. If Petras is the best option, that is an indictment of coaching, development, and recruiting. None of this an indictment on Spencer, who is given all that he has with his numbers called, which is, I totally agree. I mean, you can't get mad at Petras. It's the coaching staff that puts him out there every single game. And like yesterday, the entire game, can't tell me that there could not have been a time yesterday towards the end. I understand keeping maybe Petras in there because he's a game manager, but you can't tell me like in the second quarter or maybe even in the third quarter that you could have maybe just brought in Padilla for a drive just to see if anything sparks. But what I really think, and I don't know if this is true or not, but I really believe that the coaching staff doesn't want to do that because they do not want to see, like, if Padilla actually came in there and actually looked good, then you would have a true, like, all these questions are being, asked after the game. And I just don't think they want that. They love Petras so much. And what makes me mad about the Iowa media is they don't ask these questions to Kirk in the postgame. They just don't. They just ask, like, who's going to be the, court, but they don't ask, like, why do you think that way? Like when he said, Petras is going to be the quarterback next week. Why aren't they asking those questions? Like, what did you see out there that makes you believe that he is a guy? Like, it's just some of those type of things. I just don't get it. Why those questions aren't being asked? It's annoying.
Yeah. One more thing. So first half yesterday, I mean, if we all go back, this is a positive and a negative. So Iowa defense yesterday, just absolutely just incredible, and props to them. They lived up to the hype yesterday. But I want to go back to the first half because Iowa got 3 points with drives, and this is also a testament to Corey Taylor because he played so well. But Iowa had 3 points despite starting drives at the San Diego State 27-yard line off that botched punt, the San Diego State 33-yard line, the San Diego State 49-yard line, and then the Iowa 41-yard line.
Like, that's incredible.
And during the first half, Petras was 0 of 5 passing on third down. I mean, it's like
incredible.
Every stat is actually unbelievable. Yeah.
You at least need a touchdown, like something there. That's Iowa's defense saying, you know what, we're giving you every chance to succeed, and somehow you still can't do it. And it's not even, I mean, I don't even want to know what going up against Michigan and those teams, even Iowa State next weekend. I know Iowa State, I would say, in talking to some of their fans, like their defense was probably maybe their weak point yesterday, but they still only allowed 10 points.
Yeah.
And you think they're scared of Iowa next week? No. And at some point, the way Iowa plays defense, and obviously no one wants this, but at some point Iowa does every now and then give up the big play on defense. You saw it yesterday.
Yep.
Luckily, when Kayvon Merriweather accidentally, blew his coverage and he just overthrew him, that would have been a touchdown.
Yeah.
But, the Iowa defense is good enough to make those instances few and far between, but at some point they're going to need the offense to answer. And I just don't know where it's coming from this year.
Yeah.
And if we can at least get some wide receivers back into the fold and at least get a push on the offensive line, I don't know if Iowa goes 500 this year with the way that offense looked. So I hate to be beating a dead horse, but the offense was the worst I have seen it in a long time. And that's really hard to say based on what we've seen the last couple of years. And so, like you said, I feel bad for Spencer. I hate that they just keep putting him back out there. I don't know. He's not the answer. And
No.
I know people can go back to saying to saying the offensive line is the bigger question mark, but it's like, the offensive line isn't throwing to Sam Laporta on that 5-yard out on that easy third down conversion,
or
the 30-yarder to Alex Wick that was just terrible. I mean, it's like he has an eternal case of the yips. Yeah. And at this point in his career, if he wasn't going to figure it out last year, he's probably never going to figure it out. And so, you know what? Good kid. He's not the quarterback. And it's scary to me to think that we don't have a quarterback behind him that could at least come and maybe give a spark to this thing.
Yep. You're right. That's what's scariest is our coaching staff doesn't believe we have a better option. That's what scares me.
Yeah. And that's the thing. Yeah. Like with Padilla, it's like, but what we saw yesterday, it's like, you can't tell me Padilla would be any worse than that.
No,
you cannot. The other thing I hate about the offense, I know, Colby, we were talking about this earlier today, is why, especially like yesterday, Jackrabbits are already putting 10 guys in the box. Why we are using the fullback so much. It just doesn't work. I mean, you go back, and it wasn't just yesterday's game. It was last year. I mean, go back. How many successful plays did we run when Monty Pottebaum was in the game? Like it's far and few. And we just almost every single play he's out there. And the thing that makes me the most mad is when it's like a 3rd and 9, 3rd and 10, and he's out there. He's just a waste of a player. Defenses don't have to. I mean, if he goes out on a route, are you kidding me? He's a fullback.
And I was talking to you, Collins, like they had that like I formation where they started like motioning him like this first game, and we ran to the side he motioned to. Yeah, I could see why South Dakota State's sending 10 guys. Like, are you kidding me? That's the creativeness that we're coming up with for the first game. What scares me is we received the ball and we have scripted plays. And did we gain a first down on that first possession or no?
Yes, we did.
Yeah, we did.
We gained what?
The very first. Yeah.
Which why did we elect to receive when I mean, unless they were that confident that we were going to go down the field, why did we elect to receive?
Was that fake confidence? Well, my question.
That's been a fair special for 20 years. He's done that all the time. But I want to go back to Hawkeye game film because I was reading through a series of his tweets yesterday, and it's hard to, there's not one thing I disagreed on, but he just said, looking back through the offensive series, I don't love the game plan and the play call because he's like, I think the feeling yesterday because of how vanilla Iowa was playing was probably 21 to 24 points. But to have no offensive points is just crazy. If Iowa would have won 24-3, no one bats an eye. But we didn't even score. I mean, even as vanilla as we were, we still should have scored 24 points. And it's like, that's what's crazy. And he goes through his issues. He said, biggest issues, QB play. I will be sub 500 if it stays like that. O-line play. General perception was Iowa would improve. Instead, it went off a cliff. Pass blocking yesterday was rough. The snapping was rough. Run blocking was bad. And then philosophy. Like he said, Iowa had no intention of opening things up in the game. 2 targeted passes over 20 yards, and they were both complete. didn't complete anything from 10 to 20 yards, and many of the misses short were on the QB. In the second half, San Diego State was playing with both safeties under 10 yards from the line of scrimmage. It's like it's a losing formula of football to allow them to compress the field on you just like this. Just brutal to watch.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think like moving forward too, it's like what is there? I mean, because obviously, yeah, your hope is that we figure something out. And, it's easy to say, bring in Padilla, which I think at this point, you got to try it at least. I'm going to go to here. I have some plays I want to show you. This is when we brought in Padilla. Now this is on YouTube for everyone to look. This is when we brought in Padilla. This is we ran it on first down. So this is his first passing play. And he just looks a lot more like poised in the pocket. Delivers a good dart, stays there, perfect. That was literally his first team passing play. And then this is his next play right after.
If you notice too,
like look
he
at
has.
Yep. That
he moves in the pocket. He settles in the pocket really well. He's not a statue back there. Now listen,
I'm gonna go.
Padilla had many plays last year when he was in that did not look good, but it's just that's not something I ever see Spencer do. And we're gonna sit here all year because I really don't think
that was a pass interference. Like at least he throws. I mean, that was a pass interference. So I showed that one.
I think, but Colin, I think honestly this is tough because I think we're beating a dead horse because I don't know if we're even going to see Alex this year. I think at this point, I know we're only the first game in, but unless Spencer gets injured, which I would never want, but like unless he gets injured, I think the chances are we will not see Alex touch the field very much because coaches believe in him so much that they're willing to die on that hill.
Yeah. Here's a bootleg that I think with Padilla adds another wrinkle to the offense. Do you think Petrus would have made? No, because he can't throw on the run.
We saw that yesterday as well. Him trying to throw on the run. Right
here. I mean, he didn't complete this pass, but he at least extends the play. I mean, it was a bad throw, but he at least extends the play there. But yeah, it's just I think with him, you at least add a wrinkle to the offense. Something that you're not going to get with. And is it going to be much better? Probably not. I mean, clearly that coaching staff doesn't think so. But, you watched 2 games last year and he at least, I mean, Minnesota was a good team. I mean, there was a good team. I mean, roll out, that's a new wrinkle that you just can't do with Petrus. I don't know.
Yeah.
Here's a couple more plays. Yeah. Like this one rolls out again. I don't think he completes this, but like rolls out at least like tries to extend the play. You're not going to get that with Petrus. 434, I think, right here. Bootleg rolls out. Petrus would have probably got sacked there. Actually completes that. I mean, you have the tight ends to do those like bootlegs.
Yeah, it's not even.
That's another thing that got frustrated me is
right here. This is a good play. Like look at that. Like you're not going to get that with Petrus. That's what I'm saying. Like you give Padilla at least a chance. Like yesterday, it couldn't get much worse than that.
2 catches, 9 yards for Laporta yesterday is absolutely insane.
Yeah, he did, and he did have that one bad drop.
Yeah.
But I think we could sit here all day. And
we could. It is a therapy session. You're right, Colby. At this point, it's going to be, I think, quite the same coming down the pike here this season.
You know what? To switch gears a little bit, I do want to let's give testament to our defense going through each level of the defense. I don't think there was a player. Actually, real quick, I would love to give props to Quinn Schulte because yesterday. I think that was maybe a question mark coming into the year is how well he would play, just with Jack Corner going off the NFL.
Yeah.
Having Xavier, a couple higher rated guys coming into the program. And I thought Quinn Schulte played. He reminded me, not just because he's number 30, but he did remind me of like a Brett Greenwood, Tyler Sash player back there. He was quick. He was always in the right place at the right time.
He hit hard.
Hit hard. Great start to the day yesterday. I would have loved to seen the defense get a couple interceptions. One concerning thing, Justin Jacobs looked kind of like a hamstring thing, so hopefully that doesn't linger. But I feel good about who we have back there.
Yeah.
And, next
Who
week,
who came in for him,
probably
by
with
the
the
way?
way, well, Logan Klemp, but I think, with next week, with the way Iowa State runs their offense, I think we'll be probably seeing a lot of the cash look anyways, with Cooper slide into cash, Terry Roberts out at cornerback.
No, it'll probably
but
be Jamari Harris is back next week.
I guess Jamari
I
Harris
know.
is
I mean,
back next
that's
week.
what Austin and I were talking about that yesterday. Like, God, we don't even have Jamari Harris back there, or out there today.
Yeah. I think, the defense on all three levels yesterday was impressive. I was trying to find a snap count before we came on here, but I don't even think Lucas Van Ness was out there. He got his fair share of snaps, but it's like, man, we've been talking about all offseason how good this player is going to be, and he wasn't even out there most of the time, and the defensive line still looked dominant.
And then, and not to mention,
I think he got a half sack.
Aaron Graves.
Yeah.
Aaron Graves didn't even play yesterday either.
Yeah, and it's like, gosh, it's impressive. Run game, and even most of the time we were getting pressure with 4. There was a couple of times where he was just able to sit back there, but it's like, this defense is going to keep us in a lot of games, and the offense is going to lose us a lot of games.
Yeah.
And so I just have to give props to them, Phil Parker, to allow, how many total yards yesterday did we allow?
Let's see. I'm going to share the screen again.
176. Is that what it was?
120 total yards.
120 total yards, and I think 50 of those yards came on one drive. I know they had like an 18-yard pass play.
Yeah.
Or maybe like a 25-yard. But it's like, man, the defense played lights out yesterday, and they're going to need to next week against Iowa State.
There was only
Iowa
one.
State,
there was only one play yesterday that literally one play, and it was that they ran to the outside, and John Wagner obviously got sucked in, and they got like a 10-yard run play. That was like the biggest play that I can kind of remember, maybe our D line. But other than that, just an unbelievable performance. 2 safeties. I just can't believe that.
It's just, this defense is built to win, and they're an elite group.
And it's sad that it's being wasted.
There's NFL players, you have the D line, Lucas Van Ness is going to be a player in the NFL someday. You're probably looking at Noah Shannon getting a shot somewhere next year. Yahweh Black's starting to turn that light on. He's got an NFL-sized body. Then obviously Justin Jacobs and Jack Campbell, 2 NFL players, sure bets. You look in the secondary, you got Riley Moss, who will get a chance in the NFL. Just, the way he plays his game, I don't know how well that will translate. Kayvon Mayweather, I guess, he's going to play in the NFL, I believe. I mean, there's NFL players on that defense. And so it's exciting. And I feel so great about our defense. It's hard to really get excited until we can prove that we can put up touchdowns. I mean,
so like
said, going back to last year, we have 2 passing touchdowns since the Penn State game. It's like,
that's so pathetic.
That is
absolutely pathetic.
In this day in college football, modern era.
Right.
I mean,
that's what. So I guess the question is like, is that a Brian Ferentz thing? Is that a Kirk Ferentz thing? Like, when does that change?
It doesn't change. I don't think
he's never going to.
I mean, is it going to be until Kirk retires that we see a completely different mindset on the offensive side of the football?
Yeah, Kirk's been here, 23 years now, and he's ran the same thing. Unless he just has a aha moment, I don't see him ever just being like, all right, I'm releasing control. This new offensive coordinator. I mean, I don't know how Gary Barta next year even allows Brian Ferentz.
That's my thing.
To continue, and the sad part is, and obviously this isn't necessarily true, but the way perception is outside the program, 1, we're a laughingstock on offense, and 2, it's starting just to look like nepotism on Kirk Ferentz's part, and just allowing his son to continue to be the offensive coordinator at the school, when it's like, if I was bad at my job and everyone knew it and everyone was like, man, this guy is not succeeding, I'm pretty sure I would get fired.
Right.
And I'm sure they would make a change. And it's like, I don't get how there's just never this thing of like, all right, we need to make a change, either improve or we're making a change.
Yeah.
And listen, listening to Brian Ferentz's podcast, like, the guy wants to win.
That's what's annoying. listen.
like-
I mean, I listened to that entire podcast,
He's
And-
an
I did too. We
impressive
talked
guy.
about it.
and it's just annoying. I don't get
Yes,
it.
he's an impressive guy. When on speaking in football talk on podcasts, like it's hard to see how he doesn't succeed because he is a smart guy. And it's just like, man, there's like, what are we missing, or where is
Yeah.
the disconnect from
Right.
what we put on the field and what we've watched for the past 14 games? Because
Yeah.
I will say, back in 2020, the COVID year, like there was the first 2 games of the year weren't fun and we didn't play well, but like for the most part, that offense moved
Was
the
pretty good.
ball.
Yeah.
And Spencer was out there, and I would contend to say that Spencer's best year so far was his first year. And even that year, we were like, oh gosh, this is not good. And looking back to that year, it's like, I would take that in a heartbeat.
Yep.
And
I think the
it's,
best. I think under Brian Ferentz, 2020 might be, but I remember like 2018. Yep,
was a really good year.
Yeah, we actually put up. I mean, I think we averaged over 30 points a game. And why? Because we had 2 tight ends and we actually utilized the hell out of them.
Well, we had the 2 tight ends, and then we had Smith Marset, Brandon Smith at receiver, like actually players that teams had to account for.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, I don't know.
What do you what do you honestly do
here?
here because Keegan Johnson, who knows? I mean, I said this a couple weeks ago. I called it. I'm like, this whole situation just does not, like, watch him like not play much this year. And sure enough, doesn't play the first game. Probably will not see him next week.
I mean, Ferentz yesterday, it's honestly an odd injury because, and I don't want to get into gossip and rumors at this point, but I've read online that like he's cleared to play, and it's like the mental hurdle that's keeping him out. And I don't know. I have no idea what to believe. If we don't get him back, that's tough. If we don't, Nico's out in at least another 2 games, it makes it sound. Deontay Vines doesn't come back. It's like we are not in a good spot there. And
No.
once again, that's on the coaching staff because they had their chance to go into the portal, because that's what the portal is there for at this point. Go get some of these players that we know we can get. It's like it's free agency.
Yeah.
Go get someone. Like, go get a player. Even if it's a backup, at least we're building some depth. We have no depth right now. We're playing 2 players who, I'm not trying to be mean, but like played Iowa high school football. They aren't. It's just that's
Right.
not.
That ain't it.
No.
That ain't it. And so it's weird. So you know what? Next week, it's going to be really hard for me to envision Iowa continuing its streak next week against Iowa State. And I'm not trying to be a downer. And I would not be surprised at all if Iowa won, just based off of what the horses we have on defense and special teams. But I don't know. And it's like, does next week, if things are going terribly wrong, because you know what? There was probably some of this, what's the right word I'm thinking of? I can't think of it, but like maybe Ferentz was never really worried about ever losing that game yesterday. And so he was content with what they were doing. But that's not going to work moving forward.
Right.
Iowa State is a talented football team, and it's going to be interesting to see if we start getting behind the 8 ball next Saturday. Is he going to make a change? Because it's like at that point, if next week happens the way this week happened, that fans are going to jump off the bandwagon really quick.
Yep.
And it's going to be one of those things where it's like, it's okay to start questioning Kirk and like, what is he doing? Why is he continuing to put someone out there that's struggling so bad? How are you not developing an offensive line? It's like just start blowing things up. If next week goes like last week, it's time to blow things up.
Yeah.
You know what? If Padilla's not it, if they don't think Joe Labus is ready, but they know he's talented, put him in there. See what he can do. Because it's like nothing else is working. And another thought I had, it's like, and I know this is why it's not happening, because our offensive, as crazy as it is to think our offense is complex, like bring over some defensive guys that aren't getting a chance, that played wide receiver in high school, and let them play at receiver. Let's see what we can, it's time to blow things up, because
Yeah.
nothing's working. And it's like, I sound like a crazy fan, but it's like, no. I mean, we had 166 total yards against South Dakota State, an FCS school, who it will probably be maybe Nevada, but like the second worst defense we play all year. They're a great defense for FCS, but in terms of like the kind of football we're against the
Yeah.
teams we're going to be playing this year, there's the second worst defense on our schedule. And so it's time to take a serious look in the mirror if you're Kirk and Brian and make hard decisions. But I'm curious next week if Petrus trots out there and looks like he did last week. I don't know how, as a coaching staff, they can continue to give him the reins. And it's going to be interesting.
Sound Off made a good point. Like last night when I was driving on the way back from Iowa City, they were just made a good point that, fans, you sold out this entire season, right? Fans spend a lot of money to watch entertainment, right? And you're going to do that. And so next week, if it's the same thing happens, like you're going to lose a lot of fan support. And you're going to see, people are getting mad at the boos, which I agree is they're not booing at the players. I mean, when the fans booing yesterday, it's not really to the players. No. It's more just the fact that it's like, we're booing because this is the entertainment that you guys are giving us. I mean, this is the this is the offense. I get home last night. You turn on the TV, you turn on any game and you see Appalachian State, you see Ohio State, you see Florida, Utah, who runs like the same offense as we do. You see them go to, I mean, they can score. Like why is it so hard? Like it can't be that hard. It can't be that complex.
Well, we talked about it multiple times, Con. You brought it up. You're like, why can't we do what like Northwestern does? And I think I brought this up in the podcast before. And it's like, you see them under center, you see them in shotgun, you see them in pistol. They're just adapting with the times, right? Like that's what it is.
Listen, every team has games where their offensive production and output's not good. But we are not in that. No. We are in every game. The offensive output and production looks terrible.
Yeah.
Since the Maryland game last year,
you're right.
Since the Maryland game last year, Iowa's offense has looked terrible in every game. There hasn't even really been bright moments.
No. The Kentucky game, they looked decent.
The offensive line in the running game looked good against Kentucky, but that is out of 10 games. Is there? Yeah, just got a text from our brother. Said smelling smoke in the locker room at the wide receiver position. Who knows what's going on there? It's all messed up. And obviously we'll dive into the Iowa State game this week and look at position battles and things like that. But I think at this point, I've said all I need to say about the offense, and because we could just complain all day, and I don't know if it's going to change. And I think our fan base, I think us as fans probably just need to, and I try to remind myself, I'm just a fan. But like you said, Colin, it's hard to not to see like it can't be this hard, because if it was this hard, other teams would be having problems. Yeah. There's something seriously wrong with the program on the offensive side of the ball. And it's like, I think we as fans probably just have to get used to it being that way, because I don't think it's changing.
Also, you would think with the offense in practice going up against that stout of a defense, that you would think that you would be like good come like game week. Like because you've been going up against an elite defense for the last 4 weeks. You would think that your offense would look well-tuned and ready to go because, once again, they're going up against the best. So it just doesn't make any sense. Like why, I don't know. It just never, and it's been like that, obviously for so long, where our defense is so good and they're going up against that defense every single practice. And I get it's practice, but it's like, okay, why can, like, you would think that would be able to translate somewhere during the game. I just don't get it.
I just don't like that there's no like accountability on the offensive side of the ball. Like, I don't know. I don't know what it is. You're right. We're probably going to be seeing the same thing for another 11 games this regular season. But I think there needs to be some accountability somewhere for some change to happen. And I just don't know if we'll see it anytime soon. But
also one other thing too, and I brought this up to Tyler this morning. So last year when Padilla came in, Northwestern game, we won. We beat Minnesota. And Minnesota, like I said, was a decent team. And then Nebraska game, he played in the first half. And keep in mind, like, I think Padilla was actually battling an illness, and doesn't do very good. Obviously, in the first half, I think had maybe 6 points, and they quickly pull him out like that. So then, why doesn't that not same thing happen with Petrus? Like, why does
Good
Petrus
point.
get that? Like,
He gets that
where
leeway.
yeah,
Yep.
like yesterday, he played like shit in the first half, was missing targets. We had 3 points at halftime. Why doesn't he get pulled like that? It's just so like, what does the coach like? What is like? Does he suck off the coaches or what? Like, I'm sorry, but there's something that they just hate about Padilla, and it just annoys me because once again, like none of these questions are being answered. Like why
Yeah.
can't a reporter be like, Kirk, I mean, could you let us know? Can you tell us why, Padilla isn't the answer? I mean, is there something
Right.
that you guys see? I wish, but no one will ask
The
him those
media,
questions.
yeah, I was to say, I feel like the media is generally pretty throwing some softballs to him for the most part.
Yeah.
That's kind of the accountability that I'm talking about. It's like, answer for what you put out there. Like, we deserve to know, I think.
I'm sure Petrus does look better in practice because once again, he's not getting hit and he is probably, he does have the better arm. So I'm sure, yeah, like he does probably do better in practice and that's probably a reason. But, game is a lot different than practice. It's where you're actually getting hit. You're
1.1
actually
QBR.
Yeah. And you're just going to keep trotting him out on the field. Yep. Keep going out there. Hopefully this possession, you look a little bit better. Oh, wait, no. All right, go back out there next possession. Like, no. At some point, you just got to be like, okay, let's just bring in Padilla. Let's see if anything changes. And if he looks bad, then it's like, okay, our conversation. But you don't know until you at least see it. And like last year, we had to wait until.
Great. I don't think it'll be great, but like you said, it's whoever gives you the best chance to win, but also do your job, like score a touchdown.
I think with Padilla, I just think with Padilla, you can just, once again, like you can focus on, roll out, play action. I'm not saying you can't really do that with Padilla or with Petrus, but with Padilla, you can at least, he can, throw on the run and you can add that. I think, and I've always said this with like Iowa too, is spacing people out, shotgun, running the ball and shotgun a lot. And with like Padilla, you could at least not, once again, he's not a running quarterback, but he's at least a little bit better where you could add in like, where you can do like a read option with him where you at least keep the defense kind of honest and and they have to game plan for that. Now, would he be able to break out like a 10-yard run if he kept it? Probably not. But even if he got a few yards, once again, it keeps the defense honest. Because right now the defenses they just crash. I mean, it's just so predictable.
Yeah.
And I feel like that's really, and I mean, once again, it's a lot harder. It's easier said than done. But I just think if that might be our only option is if we started doing stuff like that, because clearly what we're doing now is not working and we'll probably continue doing that. Iowa State game, we'll probably have 100 yards again. And like you said, Colby, like after next week, it's going to be bad I mean, I don't know, even if we win, but still look like shit on offense, it's still going to be bad. But especially if we lose and look like shit on offense, man, it's going to be bad. It's going to be really, really bad. And that Nevada game will be very interesting to see the fan support. Like I know it's a sold out crowd, but it'd be very interesting if we lose next week and our offense looks just like they did this week. Like, do you see? I mean, like you're going to lose a lot of fans after if that happens.
Yeah.
So
well,
100%.
that's all I got to report. I'm pretty. My therapy session is winding down. I need to try fletching it and
moving on.
Well, it's hard to move on because it's like I think the same thing's going to happen next week, and it's
what's going to change in a week, Colin? Like, let's be real here.
It's why I will probably pick Iowa State for the first time in 6 seasons next week.
Well, I picked them last year.
I did too,
and in 2019, I think. But no, I get what you mean. Because like even last year, I felt. No. I mean, even though I picked Iowa State last year, I still felt, especially after that Indiana game. I mean, hell, what a year difference makes. I mean, remember after that Indiana game, like we felt so good after that win. Felt so confident going in like Iowa State weekend. This year, it's like, oh my gosh.
Yeah,
and I couldn't imagine
feeling. Yet the same situation of our offense not being great.
Yeah.
Granted, we had 2 pick sixes in that game, but yesterday was a microcosm of
against a
what,
Big Ten team.
the bigger issues are at Iowa, I think. And it
Yeah.
kind of all came together on the field yesterday.
Yep.
I think.
I just saw a tweet, Brent Bloom, Iowa's opened up as a 3.5-point favorite, which is very surprising.
I mean, it's not surprising when you think we're at home. Like
Yeah.
Kinnick automatically is 3 points
Yeah.
in a pick. If it was a pick 'em, it's going to go,
Right.
Well,
based on being a
yeah,
Kinnick.
it started out, I think 6.5 or a 7-point, like in the preseason or whatever. And now it's down to 3.5, and it would not shock me come end of the week,
Friday.
that Iowa State might be, or, it might get down to 1, or, at that point, maybe like a pick 'em, but I'm curious to see what the over under is, because, and we'll talk about the Iowa State game coming up here in the next podcast here in a couple days, but Iowa State's gonna, like you said, like they're gonna put up some points. It's not like we're gonna hold them to nothing. They're
Right.
gonna score like a couple times. We're gonna break down defensively because it's just what we do ever so often. And they're gonna put up like 17, 20 points. Like you just know it's gonna happen, and then, you already know like our offense, like there's gonna be a couple drives where, yeah, we start at like the 5-yard line, get nothing, and we have to punt. And granted, Torrey Taylor's really good, but like if they start at the 50-yard line, all they need is 30 more yards and they're already in field goal range. So like they're gonna put up points. And I just don't know if our offense will be able to score a touchdown next week. So at this point, yeah, like and we'll talk about this game, like I said, in a couple days, but not feeling good. That's for sure. So, yeah, I guess that's it. Therapy session is over.
Fun stuff.
Yep.
Yeah, we'll be back. We'll be back Wednesday night. Well, Thursday. We'll record Wednesday night. We'll talk about the Iowa State game. It is Cyhawk week. Man,
will you be on for that, Colby?
I'm planning on it.
Yeah.
All right.
I'll be here.
Try to get on that, and hopefully by then, we'll have moved on from this game and start focusing on that game. It's a big game. I mean, we need bragging rights for a whole year. I hate the Cyhawk game. It's just
hate this game.
I know. I always like when the game's over with, just done. But it should be a fun. I mean, the one thing I am looking forward to, it should be another great atmosphere in Kinnick. It's going to be loud. I mean, the one thing I will say, one last thing is, man, for 11 a.m. game, the beginning of that game yesterday was unbelievable. 3 false starts in a row, or 2 or 3. I mean, especially that north end zone. If we can, like, and we'll talk about this, if we can pin Iowa State deep on a couple possessions in the north end zone, that's big time, because it gets so loud down there. And it just seems like whenever we're on the north end zone, our defense just comes up big. And so you just know the atmosphere is going to be unbelievable. Now, as the game goes on, it might die down, especially if the offense is looking pretty pathetic. But I think we lost Tyler.
Did we?
I think so. I mean, he's just
it's a good time to log off then.
Yeah. So, all right. Well, that is it for this episode. Thank you guys all for listening, and go Hawks.
We'll see you next week, or see you this week.
Yep.